I'm so honored to be here. Thank you, Kristen, for being here. Can we send Kristen's baby son, infant son in the ICU a kiss? We're gonna do that in a form of a kiss. Ready? Mwah. Because as women and as heartfelt men, we are ready to do something. And I'm curious how many of you got into tech because you just wanted like a fun, kind of cool way to pay the bills, like originally? Who? Anyone? Okay. And how many of you realize now that you're in tech that this is a way that you can literally like make a big difference on the planet? Like you're so needed. So I am a retired school teacher from Iowa. I used to make $28,000 a year. My mom didn't want me selling Girl Scout cookies because she was afraid I would offend the neighbors. That's how anti-salesy my family was. So the fact that I'm now running a multi-million-dollar training company, training women to market their services, is like a total conundrum to my mom. She calls me and I answer and she goes, "Hello, California." So Shai asked me to speak to you today about what it really is to build a purposeful, sustainable impact through the endeavor that you're next embarking on. How many of you dream of a time when perhaps you're up here next year or the year after? Raise your hands high. Claim it. And now give someone a high five and say, you deserve to be on that stage. So, what do I mean? What do I mean when I say on purpose? What I mean is that you were actually born for a specific purpose that nobody else can fulfill. You were. When I was 14 years old, my parents got a divorce, and it was a painful divorce, and my mom started having panic attacks. And I started being deeply affected by the struggle that was happening at home and the anger and the fighting and listening to my parents scream at each other as I fell asleep at night. And it started affecting me socially at school. So at school, I started becoming socially withdrawn. And that meant that I got picked on by bullies. And I got held up at knife point, and I got locked in lockers. And the worst of it were actually not the boys. It was the girls. And this particular group of popular girls invited me to a party on this Friday night, and they were the ones I really wanted to be friends with. They were super cool, and I was not. So my mom drives me to this party on Friday night, and I go up to the door, and the kid whose house it is opens the door, and he looks very confused because he doesn't know about a party going on at his house. And I remember my stomach turning into knots and my throat tightening up, and I realized that those girls had played a trick on me. And I went back to my mom's car, and I said, just take me home. And she said, what's going on? And I said, choking back the tears, just take me home. And she drove me back to the house, and I ran down into my room, and my phone was ringing, the little landline, and it looked like a race car, right? And I picked it up, and it was those girls laughing into the phone. I remember it like it was yesterday. And even in that moment of feeling betrayed and excluded and so much in pain and like there was something wrong with me, I also remember this seed of ferocity inside of me where I was wondering, I was curious, what would a world look like where everybody belonged, where this kind of thing didn't happen? And 2 years later, I had an opportunity to go to a women's leadership camp. And at that leadership camp, I literally had a dream one night that I was standing in a circle of women and we were launching our dream careers together. So who knew, right, that 2 decades later, I'd host my first entrepreneurial women's training, and halfway through the training, I told them the dream and I said, will you just go down to the beach with me? And we're gonna anchor in our visions for building businesses that change the planet down next to the ocean. And so this was our first circle of about 50 women. The next year, it grew to be, let's see, this was 2012. The next year, it grew to be 100 women. Next year, 200 women. Year after that, 300 women. 2016, 400 women. 2017, it rained. 2018, we had over 450 women on the beach at my hometown in Santa Cruz, California, and we made it on the front page. And 2019 is coming up next month, and perhaps you'll be there. So I tell you this story because you have been through something you never should have had to go through. You've been on your own shero's journey, or hero's journey for the men in the room. And just like I faced a painful moment that actually taught me how to create a sense of belonging in the rooms where I facilitate, you've been through something possibly much more painful than what I went through that instilled certain values in you that I believe are the most important fuel for you creating the next chapter of your career. So give someone a high five and say thank you for everything you've been through. And thank you for letting me do high fives. Because in the 1980s, this Russian scientist realized that if people aren't involved in the learning, they're not going to remember anything. In fact, when we are involved with our physical senses, we are 10 times more likely to remember. How many more times, please? 10. Yes, good. End of the day, right? I have to keep you awake. So, principle of acceleration. Jenna did a beautiful job teaching to this earlier. Content tells, but stories are what sell. And I've come to find out in growing my business, in growing my company to be a multi-seven-figure company, we hit 7 figures in 18 months, and I'm a retired school teacher from Iowa. I used to make $28,000 a year, like I said. What I've found is that the best customer acquisition dollars that we ever spend include story. Story in the ads, story in the video, story in the marketing materials themselves. So I invite you to consider what would it mean for you to make whatever project you have happening next, whatever organization you're a part of, whatever mission you're embarking upon next, to make that actually bigger than just the thing that you're selling. So here's how Women Rocking Business has done that. We've started to really look at where are women in relationship to entrepreneurship right now, right? Well, first of all, we're the buyers. We buy 85% of the shit. We also are starting businesses 1.5 times faster than men, and women of color, thank you very much, are behind much of this growth. We're starting 1,200 new businesses a day. And yet, we're only getting paid 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. And I see entrepreneurship, and I see the tech world as a way that we can close that pay gap. Can I have an uh-huh? Yes? Okay, so women are starting businesses more frequently than men, but our businesses are failing faster than men's. A staggering 95% of businesses never break the 6-figure mark or make the impact that we as women are here to make. So I've been asking myself over the last decade and a half, why is this that women's businesses are not as successful? And what I've come to understand is that part of the reason is that the business building tools out there are primarily masculine. So what we've been doing at Women Rocking Business is studying how women learn and beginning to align the business building strategies that we all need to embrace with women's values. So we teach business building principles from a place of collaboration rather than competition, empowerment rather than power over, and generosity rather than a sense of urgency or scarcity. By the way, if you guys toss your business cards in the bowl at the back at the end, we're happy to send you the slides. But it's because of these principles that my book got picked up by my favorite publisher called Hay House, right? Like far before many of my colleagues, when my business was much smaller. And when the book came out, we had actually never sold more than 400 units of anything at Women Rocking Business. And we use the exact feminine strategies that I teach my clients to design a book sales funnel, and we sold 14,000 books in like 2.5 weeks. So, thank you. So I've become really geeky about what has women frickin' quantum leap their businesses in a short amount of time. It was because of this alignment with the gender pay gap that I got invited to be on Fox News last year, and a lot of doors have opened. And so I ask you, right, to consider what it would mean to bring a bigger sense of purpose to every level of your business, right? All 3 primary levels being lead generation. We believe in transparency in marketing, right? We believe in selling in a way that's in alignment with women's values. That means that rather than closing a sale, we open a relationship. And we believe in taking amazing care of our clients such that they actually feel like a part of what we're selling. I had lunch with Blake Mykowski of Tom's Shoes last week. You guys know Tom's Shoes? Buy a pair of shoes, give a pair of shoes to a woman or to a kid in a third world country. It's all about women today. Tom's is about kids. So one of the things that he told me is that the way they scaled so quickly is because he really developed the story around Tom's Shoes such that when people buy that pair of shoes, they're proud of it. They're pointing out their friends. If they run into somebody at the airport that has Tom's on, now they're friends, right? Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Yeah. So when women join our training company, we do a micro loan to a woman in a third world country. And the women that join our training companies know about that, and they're inspired by that, and they want to share the message forward because they're a part of something that's making a difference, right? So my question to you is, how do you actually make your message or your brand or the thing that you're selling, right, bigger than just your customers? Because we aren't the only ones on the planet that know that we need to turn this thing around, right? The way things are going on the planet need to be turned around. And out of all the tech businesses out there, only 5% are started by women, as many of you know. And I believe the women who are going to change that statistic are in this room. So, the question I have for you is, what purpose, what bigger purpose, right, does your business serve? And what is your purpose in it? And the next point that I want to bring is this idea of sustainability. So I say this with total love, but I've been chatting with many of you today. I had a conversation with some women in the bathroom. I overheard some women by the coffee maker. I've heard at least 3 different conversations that included women talking about how late they stayed up working. You're busted. What I've come to understand is that women aren't actually built to even work full time. I believe we're built to work part-time. I know, it's crazy. You guys are looking at me like I'm an alien right now. So we lay out a plan for our customers and clients to work 12 days a month or less. We work the first 3 weeks of the month, Monday through Thursday. We take Fridays off. We take the last week of the month off. The $1 million, the $1 billion ideas come when you have space. Are you taking space? Are you taking time to not just work in your endeavor, but step back and work on your endeavor? To work where, please? On, right? We need that perspective. So what happened to me is I was gung-ho, right? Go-getter, type A, make it happen, built the $1 million company, and crashed. My adrenals crashed, my kidneys crashed, my liver stopped working. I was exhausted, I wasn't bouncing back. We had just gotten done with this big fundraising campaign where we had raised a couple $100,000 for women in the rainforest in Ecuador. So I'm having lunch with my friend Lynn Twist, who has an organization called Pachamama, and she raises money for women in the jungle in Ecuador. And she says, you know, you're one of our fundraisers, why don't you come down to the Amazon jungle, unplug, your phone's not gonna work down there, and just take a couple of weeks to just be away from everything. I was like, oh wow, okay, let's do it. So there we go. We fly 500 miles past where all the roads end. I go into the jungle. These women discover that I'm one of the primary fundraisers that was able to support them. And they asked if I would bring a story back to the women that I work with. Now, keep in mind that I went down there with a question of, how big do I want to go with this whole thing, women rocking business? Like, is this bigger, better, faster, stronger mentality really going to get me the happiness and the peace that I'm looking for? That's my question in my heart. Now this woman in the jungle is asking me to bring a story back. The answer, of course, to any woman who's living in the middle of the rainforest is yes, I will bring your story back. So now the story is being translated from Achuar into Spanish and Spanish into English. And as the story goes, in the Achuar culture, there are feminine roles and there are masculine roles. And the feminine role is to create, to make babies, and to make chicha, which is their main carbohydrate drink. And the masculine role is to be a warrior and to hunt and to bring home fish for protein and to cut down trees for shelter. She said, but what I want you to know is that the women have one more role, and that is to say enough. Within all the creation, the feminine in us creates. She says it's not even about just women and men versus men anymore. All of the men in this room know that you have a strong feminine side, or you wouldn't be sitting in this room, that knows how to create, right? Thank you very much, men, for being here. But what she said was that in the Achuar culture, the other job that the women have is to know when to say enough. So when the men bring home enough trees, it's the women's job to eyeball the trees and say, that'll build the shelter, don't cut down any more trees. And when the men bring home fish for protein, it's the women's job to eyeball the fish and say, that'll feed the village, don't kill any more fish. Now, when the Achuar people see pictures of the West, they only have one question, and that is, why haven't the women stood up and said, enough? Because it's actually the feminine in the men in this room and the feminine in the women in this room that knows how to create, but we know how to do it sustainably without burning ourselves out, without burning our families out, without burning our communities out, and without being a part of this bigger, better, faster, stronger mentality that doesn't actually leave anyone fulfilled. And that is why communities like this exist, so that we can get together and ask ourselves, how do we do this collaboratively and intentionally? So here's a picture of the rainforest jewelry that we helped these women make and sell out of rainforest seeds to keep oil companies out of the rainforest. And that brings me to this question of what is true impact, right? What really does make impact? So what I mean by that is not about how hard you work, not just about products and services and content, right? Not just about how many hours you're putting in, and my clicker's gonna work perfectly. Not just about how many hours. Your customers are not coming to you because of how many hours you put in. They're coming to you because of a values alignment, because they believe what you believe, because of the kinds of stories that you share through your marketing. It's because of the quality of the service that you provide, right? Not how fast you can go. And it's about you standing for something bigger, right? A bigger transformation. So what I've found in studying the way that women launch and scale their businesses to multi-six, seven figures. Remember, I'm in the training industry. We're not a software company. So I don't yet know of $1 billion training company, but please tell me when you find one. Maybe I'll be the first. So women soar, right? By doing this in community, by doing this collaboratively. I like to call it creating tribe. How many of you feel like a part of the Women in Cloud tribe? Right? Like you belong here. How many of you feel like you wish a lot more days felt like it feels today? Raise your hand. Okay, so I'm here to tell you that you can create that. You can take that back to your workplaces. You can take that back to your endeavors. You can take this sense of getting people connected and inspired back. That's what we do, right? And there's a saying in marketing that community doesn't sell, community sticks. So what I mean by that is that it's not necessarily going to be community that has people buy your products and services. You still have to mention the features and the benefits, right? But once you do have a customer, the leverage that you have when you inspire that customer to take ownership of the thing that you offer, the product, the service, right? The ownership to experienceify that opportunity. What I mean by that is we've been playing around here at Women Rocking Business with something called gamification. What's the word, please? Okay. I really believe that gamification is one of the future opportunities we have in the digital marketing space, okay? What I mean by that is that when people engage in a contest, they engage in an opportunity where they're actually corresponding with other people on the internet. They're not just watching a talking head, but there's a call to action, a way to be a part of something, right? Social media groups, LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups. Groups are so hot right now. Anybody that joins a Facebook group is going to see that group's information higher in their feed than any ad you could ever run. Facebook doesn't want to be an ad site. They want to be a social site. So anytime you can actually start groups for your customers, we're finding like my 20,000 person Facebook group is 10xing the results of my over 100,000 person database. Does that make sense? So when you gamify what it is that you're offering, you can watch your results go through the roof. Women love this, and it inspires viral sharing. It inspires what, please? So we talk about experienceifying the marketing experience. We talk about the fact that the internet is loud and crowded. We talk about the fact that gamification creates instant engagement. And of course, like Brené Brown says, belonging is the biggest driver of human behavior, right? So to get your customers those instant wins, to inspire that connection, by getting people playing the game. Here's an example of what's happening in one of our groups. We ran a video contest last week. We had thousands of people join in like 3 days. We had over 600 people make videos in 72 hours. We gave away a bunch of training, and those members were sharing the product such that we had about 3x the results this year as we did last year. So I have a quick video to show you about one of the events that I do every year where I teach some of these more feminine business building and leveraging strategies where you actually create tribe within your brand and within your project. And I just want to see if we can cue up this quick, it's like 40 seconds long, so you guys can see behind the scenes.
We are moving from the time of me to a time of we. Building tribe is key to grow your brand, leverage your time, maximize your profit, and set yourself free. Come discover how I grew my community to reach hundreds of thousands, build a 7-figure business, give back, and become a best-selling author in just 18 months. You can do this. Your tribe is waiting.
So Chai, being the amazing, generous angel that she is, said, give a gift to my people. So what we did is we opened up 50 seats, I think about 30% of which have been filled, at a training that we're doing in March on the California coast. And it's all about the feminine business growing principles. So sorry guys, you can't come. However, if you are a woman, we would love to have you. And Chai asked me to, again, open up like full scholarship opportunities. So it's a $500 event, but we're actually giving you, Women in Cloud, a full scholarship if you'd like to come get the training. So the first day is all about really mastering your message and your brand and looking for your unique way of standing out in what I really see as a crowded market. The second day, we really help you master your revenue models. And the third day, master your marketing. And we give you the launch plans that we use to grow and scale, and that we've helped both product-based businesses and service-based businesses use. So if you would like to take advantage of that full scholarship ticket, please grab me at the end of the event. I'm going to be in the back corner back there, and we'll get you all set up so that you can grab a seat or just get more information. Now, if you are sitting there listening to this, or any other shiny, happy speaker that has spoken today, and you're asking yourself, am I really capable of this? They seem awfully shiny. Please know that, again, I'm a school teacher from Iowa. I used to make $28,000 a year. If I can do this and figure this stuff out, so can you. Now, there's a saying, it's actually a quote from the Gospel of Thomas from the Bible. It says, "That which is inside of you and expressed will set you free. That which is inside of you and unexpressed will eat you from the inside out." I would venture to say that when we're really called to make a difference on this planet, we truly don't have a choice. But here's what I know. The mean girls that I was talking about when I was a little kid, that's not the women in this room. I'm going to close out with one quick folk tale that I heard years ago. And it's about a young woman who's on a spiritual path but wants to be a leader. And she went to her teacher and she said, "Why is it that so many of the spiritual leaders are men? The heads of Eastern philosophy, right? Who brought Buddhism to the West? Wayne Dyer, right? The heads of the yoga movement, right? Iyengar, so many men." So she's asking, "Why is this, teacher?" And the teacher says, "Well, you see, women can be a little bit like crabs in a pot. When you put the pot of crabs on the stove to boil, you don't need to put a lid on the pot, because if one crab crawls too high to escape the heat, another crab will just grab its leg and yank it back down into the pot." The teacher said, women can be like this. There are times when women don't want other women to be too big or too confident or too smart. Men are outrightly competitive. They're like, "Brother, I'm gonna take you down." Women can be insidious. They can go behind each other's backs. But that's not what's happening at Women in Cloud. What's happening at Women in Cloud is, dun 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 dun. What's happening at Women in Cloud is, what's happening at Women in Cloud is that women are hooking their leg over the edge of the pot and shucking each other out of the pot. Right? Congratulations for being on this journey. Congratulations for having a dream. Congratulations for caring enough about what lies ahead of us to care more about our future than just doing your job. You have a gift inside of you that only you can bring. Only you. Nobody else can bring it. There's a set of life circumstances that you've been through that is unique to you. There's an opportunity to bring a message, to bring forth a transformation that only you can really bring because of the set of life circumstances that you've been through. You can't look out there and compare yourself to people that you think or perceive are already doing it, or doing it better or bigger or faster. You're here for a reason. Your tribe, your customers, your team, they're all out there waiting for you. And remember, a rising tide lifts all boats. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you, Women in the Cloud.